So we're getting heavy into the marketing now. We're going to pay a lot of attention to the personal injury marketing. And we're going to talk about the vehicles one of the ways. So initially, we talked about the sources. We reverse engineer and we follow the personal injury patient from the accident and the contacts. And we're going to go into those individually. And what is the message you say? But now we're going into vehicle of delivery. So we're going to talk about the importance of video relative to the vehicle of delivery and the basics of video. So let's go into the structure of video and some things you need to know. Now, remember, why do we want to do video? Well, 55% of how we communicate is visual, 36% is tone, only 7% are words. So you want to do everything you can to have video. This is, by the way, this is the same talking to your patients, your website. I mean, you want to do everything you can to be video. And it's much easier today than it was, say, 20 years ago. Like this video setup right here. I'll talk about how this video is set up. But we're going to go into the technology of the video first, and then we're going to go into the content. And then we're going to go into each category of a potential target for the personal injury patient, whether it's your family members, your patient's family member. Again, when we follow the flow chart, the emergency room doctor, the general practitioner, the immediate care center, all these, the insurance adjuster, the personal injury attorney. We're going to go in, we're just going to follow the flow chart. And we're going to go into who we're contacting, what's the way we're going to contact them, what's the several ways or the best way, and then obviously the content. What's the content? The content's going to be very different from a neurosurgeon to a neurosurgeon than to a personal injury attorney versus a insurance adjuster. So these are all very different contents. So we're going to make sure we're highly aware that because all their needs are different. Okay, so let's go into the vehicle of delivery, which is video. And it can be easily delivered via YouTube link. And now you can send the videos via link on when you text message somebody. And we'll pay attention to the vehicle of delivery, okay? So right now, about 25% of emails get opened, about 75% of text messaging. So there should be a lot of text messaging going on in addition or in support of emails right now. That's what should be happening with your communicating with your patient base. Okay, so let's go into the basics of the technology of the video. What are we looking at? Here's the general concept is we do not want it to look bad. That's the concept. So we do not need it to make it look like corporate video. We don't need that at all. We need to be aware of what makes a video look bad. That's it. Okay. So let's pay attention to how to do the basics of a video. So let me go ahead and pop this up and we're going to go ahead and just walk right through the basics of a video and how to not make it look bad. Okay. So now we're going to pay attention to a lot of these factors: positioning, background, lighting, audio, dress, video, duration, editing. So we're going to be paying attention to the technical components right now, and then we'll go into the content. So there's a difference between the technical and the content. So right now, let's cover the basics of the technical. And I'll just share with you kind of what I'm doing here, why I'm doing it, all that stuff. So let's go ahead and take a look at positioning first. And we'll go into what should you have for positioning and what do you definitely want to stay away from with positioning. So you want the camera angle slight down at your face. You want the camera directly even with your nose or slightly down at your nose. A big mistake that I see a lot of times is the cameras up the person's nose. This happens a lot when people are doing their webcams on laptops and they leave the laptop on the table and then they just open the laptop. Next thing you know, you're looking up their nose and you got the ceiling as the background. Don't do that. That's a terrible view. You don't want to look up the person's nose. Okay, so you want to sit up straight for positioning. Do not have the camera angle looking up. Sit up straight for positioning. It's best when you're on a chair to have, let's go into whether your chair is standing. It's best to stand, believe it or not. And what happens when you stand is you're able to stay still more. And if you're in a chair, like I'm in a chair right now, you want to lock it down. So if you got one of those chairs that moves or rotates, those are the chairs you do not want to be on, because what you'll do is when you're on the chair, you'll kind of start doing this without even knowing about it, without even thinking about it. Just from a nervous habit, you'll kind of start doing stuff like this. Okay. And that's a major distraction relative to what you're trying to communicate. So you prefer to stand. If you can't stand, sit, lock the chair, sit up straight. And the best way is to sit at the end of the chair. One of the things you don't want to do is sit back in a chair. It drops your core muscles and you'll look like this. You'll look old and haggard. So a lot of times it's good when you are on the chair, move to the front of the chair. It makes your core muscles sit up straight. And that's what's good about standing, is it forces you to sit up straight and prevents a lot of the moving around that can happen on a chair. So you want to pay a lot of attention to this chair, that it's locked down. Stand if you can. If you're in a chair, lock it down. Sit on the end of the chair when you're going to take the picture, so you're not moving around. Now, you want a bust shot. What's the most common mistake when people take a picture? It's way too close and they got their head right in the middle of the picture. So here's the guidelines for taking a video. The bottom of the video should be at the belly button. The bottom line of the video, like mine's a little high, like right there. That's probably 1 or 2 inches higher than what it should be. This is just a little high. But the bottom, like if I was standing, I make sure that the bottom is at my belly button. Now, when I do that, I'll be positioned properly. There'll just be a little sliver of space above my head. You never want your head in the middle. It's always off-centered to the top. Okay. So that's another common mistake that I see is doctors, they get too close. It's coming up their nose, up at the ceiling. All these things start looking bad real fast. Okay. So that's the framing. So you want a bust shot. So how do you get a bust shot? Because you wouldn't want it from just here up. Get the bottom of the camera at your belly button with a little bit of sliver. If you do that, you'll almost be the perfect distance. They'll be able to read your mouth. They'll be able to see your facial expressions, but you won't be too close and you won't be too far. That's usually a very good way of thinking of the picture. Put the bottom of the video at your belly button. Okay. So the top frame is just over there. So the head should be in the top 2/3 of the frame, not in the middle. Don't center the head, and don't only do a headshot. Okay. All right. So that's a little bit about positioning. So what's the common mistakes people will make of positioning? They'll move around. They'll be too close. They'll shoot up their nose, looking up to the ceiling. So you've got to control all this. Like I'm controlling where my desk is at, my camera's at, my lighting's at, my sounds. You've got to, you got to take time out to put this together and feel it. Now, what I recommend is you just have a little studio in your office. There's places to sit, nowhere to put your camera, nowhere you want to stand, nowhere you want the patient to stand for testimonials. Already know the lighting. See, already know the sound. So figure it out and then just leave it alone. Or, make marks on where you have everything. And what I found is if you don't have this already set up, you won't be doing it. Because what you won't do is you won't get out and set all this stuff up when you want to shoot videos. You won't do that. So I highly recommend that you figure this out in your office. Take all these considerations. Now, it'd be nice if you could do it from your desk like this. That'd be nice. But you got to pay attention to several factors. And if you can't do it from your desk, then do it where it's standing, but where you can kind of leave everything. And that way you just have to turn it on and turn it off. But if you have to put it up every time, you will not be doing videos. Okay, so let's go to number 2, standing versus sitting. We talked about that. When you're standing, hold a pen. Too many times people don't know what to do with their hands, and they look awkward. Just hold a pen. Bend your hands, bend your arms just slightly, and hold a pen. See? And now you can talk like this. You can't see my hands as much, but now you can talk and you can kind of use this pen a little bit. And now you're using your hands comfortably instead of just not using your hands and talking like this. And you really look uncomfortable in the camera because you're not moving your hands. So if you're standing, hold a pen, bend your elbow a little bit, and that'll kind of force you to just use your hands a little bit, okay, and not look awkward. And again, if you do use a chair, one of the worst chairs you can get on is one of your therapy chairs that has rollers and it rotates. You just want to stay off that thing. So again, this chair I have here, I lock it. It's locked down. I lock it down so it doesn't bend. Now it does rotate, but I'm very conscious of it, not rotating. But the best thing you can do is stand. That's the best thing you can do. Next one is the background. What are the key factors to the background? Well, no distractions, nothing moving, no personal effects. You want generic or no material best. Here's a big one. No window or lights. Remember, anytime you have a window behind you, a source of light, what does that tell the camera? The camera picks up that light and it tells the camera to make you black, to darken you out. I see this all the time down at the beach. People, there's sunset, or people go, oh, I want a picture, and they're standing, at the beach in the sunset. You got to turn your flash on. Every time they take it, the sunset looks great, but you can't see the people. You just see the outline of the people because the camera, the sensitivity in the lens shut them down. So just be aware of that. No distractions, nothing's moving, no personal effects. When we say personal effects, what you don't want in the back is a picture of your wife, your kids, your dog, nothing personal. Like you look in my background, it's all generic and it's not cluttered. It's easy. It's not cluttered. And the reason is people's eyes will go to that. They'll look at those pictures. If it's your family, your kid, or your dog, the personal stuff, they'll start paying attention to, and not you. That's why. So the more generic, the better. People try to read books, pictures, and diplomas on the wall, distraction. No odd colors or designs. So you're just looking for odd stuff. If you're in your desk and you got a wall behind you, even if you put a few diplomas behind you, that looks good. That looks like authoritative. Okay, so that looks good. I've seen a few pictures like that. Okay, lighting. Lighting is one of the things that'll make a picture look bad fast. So here's the basics of lighting. Um, Natural light is the best. Now remember, lighting is given in Kelvin temperatures. And 6,400 Kelvin is typically white light, outside white light. Now, I've seen up to a 5,000 Kelvin bulb sold, white light, because you want white light. You don't want the yellow light. Well, the lower the Kelvin temperature is, like when you get down to a 2,000 or 3,000 Kelvin bulb, that's those yellow bulbs. You don't want that. You want white light. So it's okay using fluorescent over you. Like I've got a light over me, but I've got the white lights in them. I don't have the yellow lights. But you always want a light coming facing towards you. And it's real easy. They got the little circular lights. It's real easy to buy. The lighting is so easy nowadays. You can buy just a real simple light and you can put it on a little tripod stand, and it's actually used for the influencers that shoot a lot of videos of themselves on location, you know. So anyway, and I recommend that, by the way. I recommend getting a light that goes onto a little tripod so you can move it around. You can bring it in closer, you can move it further away, something like that. Sometimes when you put the light right on the like they'll have the little circular lights and where they can attach right to the screen. Sometimes that's too intense, but you're gonna have to feel for the lighting, and that's why I say wherever you're at, you've got to look at the lighting situation and go, well, do we got too much lights behind us? Is my face too dark? Because I got shadows under my eyes. I'm looking older now because I don't have any forward light. I only have overhead light coming down. So there's nothing wrong with turning your lights on in your office, and then just make sure you have a light in front of you that projects light right to your face. That's a key, because you'll look bad. You'll look older and bad and like you hadn't slept if you only have light coming down over you. Okay. So direct lighting limits dark eye shadows. There's the alligator lamp. So you can go into like Home Depot and they'll have these little lamps. The alligator lamps are the ones you can bend. I like those because you can bend them, twist them, turn them. You need to turn it this way, turn it that way, whatever. But the simplest idea is just to get a tripod. Like even when I'm using I got my Logitech video that's being recorded right now. It's on a tripod. I don't put it on my desk because when I do and I adjust everything, it's still way too close. I'm like in your face. And that's why it's not clipped on, because it's designed just to set on your screen. That's what it's designed for. And it does have some controls where you can move in or out. But by the time I fixed it to where I wanted it, it was way too close. And so I'm like, no. So I put it on it. I just screwed it on the top of a tripod and I moved it back about 2 feet. And then that's what gives this framing effect. We got the bookcases, a few lightly addressed bookcases behind me. Should be nothing there to overly grab your attention. Pretty generic stuff. There you go. So if it's too bright, you can either move the camera back, or you can tape a piece of copy paper over it, or 2 or 3 copies of copy paper to diffuse the light. Now, don't do that to an incandescent light, because that copy paper will get hot and could catch on fire. But it won't happen when it's like a fluorescent light or LED light. Okay. Pay attention if it's sunny or cloudy. Now, what's best, like if you got a big window, maybe if it's cloudy, you got bad lighting that day. So some of the best scenarios is when all your drapes are closed, your windows are closed, and you control the lighting. So it's not going to matter what happens out there. You control it. And basically, we're just talking about turning on your overhead light, putting one light in front of you, and to lighten up your face. That's essentially what we're talking about. Okay, sunny versus cloudy days do make a difference. Remember, the low Kelvin incandescent is more of the bad. It's bad. It's the green or yellow hue. You don't want that. There's an LED. The really good lights to use are LED, and a 5 Kelvin temperature. Those are really good, and you can buy those at Home Depot. You can put them into an alligator lamp. You can move it closer, further. But again, what I also have is I've got a little light right behind my camera. I've got a little light that I put on a tripod. I like the tripods because you can move them, even though you can control the camera, coming in or out. You're still limited. But if you can move it very easy when it's on a tripod. And they just screwed that. That's a little Logitech. This is being videoed with a high definition Logitech webcam. So it's a totally fine video, totally fine camera. You don't need to go out and buy a big camera. That camera, I think, is $99 at Best Buy. It's a Logitech high definition camera that plugs right into your computer. It's a USB drive. Doesn't even need outside electricity. Now, I'll talk about that right now, as a matter of fact. Let's go into the audio. So that camera will have audio. It'll have a microphone, but it's too far away. See? So your options, you got a couple options. One is you can buy one of these Bluetooth. Hopefully you can see that. One of these are Bluetooth lavaliers where you can just put this into your shirt. So that's one option, is a Bluetooth lavalier. The other option, and I keep it out of sight where you can't see it, but I got a spring arm. I got a boom arm right here. There's the mic right there. That's a Yeti microphone. It's a high quality microphone, and it's on a spring arm. So I can kind of adjust it. I can bring it in, bring it out. And I want it just right outside of the picture, right there. So it's close enough. I still got it close, so it's capturing really good sound, but you can't see it. It's not in the picture. But what you don't want to do is use the microphone of your Zoom cam, because now you're too far. That microphone only works pretty good if it's on the desktop and you're right at the desktop and you're facing the microphone. That's about the only time it sounds okay. But mine's 2 feet back. No, it would sound like I'm talking down a hallway is what it would sound like. So pay attention to your lighting, pay attention to your sound. The Logitech microphone, the Logitech video cam. That's what I use. Do not go past 2 arms length distance. So if you think of it, don't put the camera more than 2 arms lengths past. If you do, it's too far. And I would just recommend getting the Bluetooth lavalier and just plugging it on when you were going to say something. That's what I'd recommend. Do not use it if you're using the whiteboard for the audio. If you're using a lavalier or a lapel microphone, it's too far. So remember, if it's not on that computer and you're not at your desk, don't use that microphone on that Logitech. You're going to either have to get a nicer one, or just get a lavalier that's right there at your mouth. It captures what you're saying, and you just plug it. Just like that. You're just going to plug it. That's it. And this is USB charged, so you can easily USB charge it. I don't know how long it'll last, but it'll definitely, if you charge it fully, it'll definitely last for a few minute video. That's for sure. So be aware of the background noises. Be aware of the background noises. And by the way, you can, before this lavalier thing, you can actually buy a hardwired. So they've got hardwired lavalier that goes to your collar. Um, they've got hardwired too, which makes it easy. You know, you're not dealing with Bluetooth. Remember, anything that's not connected or has a battery or is not charged, you know, that's like a camera person's nightmare. You're always paying attention to that thing dying. So if you are going to stay close, you might want to consider just getting a hardcore lavalier that plugs right into the computer and then attaches on. And they come in like 6 feet, and then you can even get an extension if you wanted to. You won't even depending on where it's at, you know, what your setup is. It's easy to get an extension for that too. Okay, so let's go in background noises. Background noises. I don't know if you notice, one of the first things I always do when I turn the camera on, I turn my phone off. Whatever you're going to do, let your staff know you're recording. Don't knock on the door. Turn the phone, you know, in your room where you're shooting, turn the ringer off. And you'll have to ruin one or two videos before you realize I got to pay attention to the noise around me. Okay, so going into dress, and I say this all the time. What's the absolute best dress you should use when you're doing clinical videos for patients? A white lab coat. I have a white lab coat. I bought it only for videos. Now, if I wanted to wear it in practice, I could, okay? But I don't want to. I wear it only for videos. And there's some general rules with the white coat or no white coat. So what's the best scenario to shoot a video is where the white lab coat and your tie and a white shirt, or a blue shirt, white shirt, a tie, white lab coat, and then, you know, one pocket has your name, the other pocket has your office name. That's the best scenario. It says doctor, doctor, doctor. That's the best. Now, when I shoot clinical videos, I put my white coat on to shoot because it says doctor. Okay. Now, if you're not going to wear a tie, make sure that your collar is a button-down collar. Nothing looks worse than if you don't wear a tie and it's open here and it's not a button down, so these are flying out. That looks sloppy. So if you're not going to wear a tie, make sure you wear a button down. And I'll do like now when I pay attention differently to who I'm shooting videos for. This video is for doctors. So this is a more casual dress. This is a casual shirt, casual business shirt dress. So it's for doctors. It's not for the public. It's not for patients. I would never wear something like this and send it to a patient. I would never do that. I personally wore a suit every day in my office, a suit and tie. That's how I practiced. My first 2 years, I wore the white lab coat. And then I got tired of the white lab coat. And then I wore a suit and tie. Number one, it makes you feel like $1,000 when you put a suit on and a tie. Number two, I'm always doing business. So I was always planning on doing business at lunch, who I was going to meet with, this or that. And so that's another option. So if you don't wear the white lab coat, I suggest to do everything you can to wear that white lab coat over a suit jacket. Then if you don't, then wear the suit jacket. But what you never want to do is wear just a shirt and it open, and especially not buttoned down, and no jacket, whether it's a suit jacket or a clinical jacket. It looks sloppy. That does not say professional. Okay. So you're really either looking at the white lab coat and a jacket, and here's the other option that says doctor, is the surgical scrubs. That says doctor. So there's no problem putting on surgical scrubs. And by the way, if you guys remember, you should always have over one pocket, you know, your name, and over the other pocket, your office name. So surgical scrubs. And remember, surgical scrubs should never be in black. Remember, there's something called the psychographics of color. Colors branded by certain things. Black is funerals. The healthcare color is blue. Purple and blue or navy blue. Those are the healthcare colors with white lettering. Okay. So no polo shirts are casual color for dress. Reminds me of when, everybody gets in their own idea what they think is okay. And I remember telling one client, and he's like, no, he was in a southern state. He goes, no, I'm okay with wearing a polo shirt. I said, you don't look professional at all. As a matter of fact, I don't even know you're the doctor when I walk in here. And we did a live webinar with attorneys. I had my suit on. I'm not going to do a webinar without, a shirt, my suit. And so I've got my suit on, and he's sitting in there with his polo shirt. If you didn't know anything else, you knew who the professional was and who the professional was not. If you didn't know anything else. So I'm not saying you have to do that stuff all the time in your office, but that's the basic dress of an office. It's either the suit, the white lab coat, no tie, button down, business shirt, or scrubs. That's the dress that says doctor. All right. By the way, even if you have just a button down and that's all you're going to wear, have it embroidered. Put your name over one collar, put the office name over the other. By the way, when you embroider them, they're now 100% tax deductible. When you don't, they're not tax deductible. Okay, let's go to the video duration. Duration is interest dependent. People go, oh, people don't listen to long videos. That's not it at all. If there's a high interest in what you're saying or doing, you can have a longer video. Generally speaking, you don't want one over like 20 minutes, 22 minutes. Now that's with a high interest video. Okay. So if somebody has an interest in what you're doing, they'll watch it. Okay. I had a 3-hour personal injury seminar. People watched, and they would tell me, yeah, I watched the full thing. But it is good to break it up. We have a lot shorter attention spans, and it is to break things up into 2 parts or 3 parts. So if something's going to be a little longer, like the snippets that I do for the newsletter, I try to keep those under 20 minutes, because usually somebody can take 10 or 15 minutes out of their day, or they can watch it during lunch, or they can watch it during a break, stuff like that. So when I just do the newsletter snippets, I try to keep them under 20 minutes, the topic. If it's like a real singular topic, it's going to be like 3 minutes, 4 minutes, maybe 7 minutes. That's it. So we do pay attention to that. But what's it dependent on? It's dependent on what you're saying. Is it relevant and is it interesting? That's why we talk about content so much when we say problem solution. Well, people pay attention a lot more to your content, no matter what it is, including video, when you're solving their problems, when you're talking about their problems and you're telling them how to solve them. Okay. So longer subject breaks in the series, you can break it. If something, you're going to do is a little longer. And then remember, sometimes it's good to have like a 4-part video series, because that's called a sales series. Now, when we go into content, I'll cover this. But a lot of times you want a 3-part, 4-part series on purpose because of the multiple contacts and the content. You got too much content for one day, so you want to spread it out, and it helps. And I'll tell you where that works really well is having an educational series video right there on your website. And one of the things I recommend is with my doctors, they do that new patient orientation presentation. And when they do it, record it And that is the best thing. It's like one of the best things they could put on their website and chop it up. Because that thing, a lot of times you can get it down into 20 minutes, something like that. But remember, when most people go to your website, most people do not call you and come in. So you want an opt-in. You want something of interest to capture them. And that's one of the best things you could do is they can opt in for that new patient orientation. It's a sales presentation. It's fantastic. So it's like you selling somebody on autopilot. It's fantastic. They sign in, boom. You go right through the new patient orientation, different healthcare providers, how their problem started, how the complicating factors, the science of the 3 phases healing, the differences in the types of providers, and then we go into the offer. When I cover the new patient presentation, that's the same as the new patient orientation. It gets a lot of new patients. I say it all the time. I can't give that presentation and not get new patients because it's totally reverse engineering for the person who has a problem. It's psychologically reverse engineered. When I say what I say and how I say what I say and what I say. Okay. So video duration, we talked about the video duration. So if you can keep it under 3 minutes, like on a particular topic, some of the best videos you can do are problem solution videos. And we're going to get into content. What should you actually be in a video? And it actually gets to be pretty easy after you do it for a while. But we'll go into the content. But they're problem solution videos. And we'll go into the emotional triggers and things that have greater impact and less impact. But it's you solving their problems. It's essentially you creating a video of how you can help their back pain with several of these emotional triggers, back pain, neck pain, whatever, with several of these emotional triggers. We'll go into that when we get into the content. And when you do these videos, you want singular focus. You don't want to talk about 5 different topics in a video. Number one, it's confusing for the recipient. Number two, you're going to have a hard time SEOing that video. You can't when you do a video, you want to be able to SEO it, search engine optimize it for one keyword phrase, one keyword combination, or one keyword phrase. So you would never create a video and talk about back pain and neck pain. And now you have to SEO it for neck pain and back pain. You would never do that because now you've taken the strength of the video and you've weakened it. Now Google looks at that and goes, well, what's this video about? Is it about back pain or is it about neck pain? And so it's like you get a little of both. It's all weaker because you added the topics. That's why it's, when you're going to do these videos, you'd only do one on neck pain. That's it. You'd only do one on back pain. That's it. Because you'd SEO it properly for that. And it'd be very narrow and specific. And what does that do? It gives it strength in the internet universe with Google. And I'll cover SEO, search engine optimization, as we move along also. So it's very simple problem focused, whether it's a very specific problem solution. Okay. Editing, you don't even have to worry about editing so much. You don't have to worry about watermarking, like putting your website into the video. That's extra work. I wouldn't even worry about it. Easy access to the start stop mouse. So the only thing you just might want to be aware of is when you actually shoot the video, like this is being recorded. So I pushed the record button and then I waited a minute or two because I wanted an in period. Now, you don't even have to worry about fading in anymore. And we don't even recommend fading in and fading out because when you go to upload these videos, it'll, whether it's YouTube or Vimeo, wherever you go, they'll take a slice of that video and they'll make it the head of your video. Well, if one of those slices is at the very beginning when you were fading in or fading out, your picture looks black now. So that's why you don't want to fade in or fade out. Don't worry about the watermark. So I just leave a little bit of time in the beginning, just a second or two in the beginning, just so, maybe I'm cutting my hand out. I'm editing my hand out that I'm, moving to the mouse cursor or something like that. Or, I turn it on and then I want to get everything straight. And then I'll wait a second or two and then I'll go, okay, start. See, now I have at least 1 or 2 seconds to cut out me going from here to here. See, and you always want to do that. You always leave 1 or 2 seconds at the front, 1 or 2 seconds at the back. So you're just, because that just doesn't look good if you're done with the picture and then it sees you doing this. Click. That just doesn't look good. It looks good if you just finish and it goes click and that's over. You edited this out. You edited you reaching for the mouse to turn it off. You edited it out. Or the mouse to turn it on. You edited it out. So the only thing you really got to worry about is just clipping the beginning and the end. Sometimes you don't have to do that too much, depending on how much you sneak it. How much you suddenly push stop or start. So just be aware of that. So these are some of the big things about editing you need to pay attention to. What are the common mistakes? Well, in every one of these categories, positioning is a common mistake. A lot of times the doctor's too close or you're looking up the nose. And it's good to just get used to, maneuvering things. That's like sometimes I'll get on Zoom with a client and it's terrible. The lighting's terrible. The background's terrible. And I'm like, now's a good time to pay attention to your camera. You're too close or it's looking up your nose. I'm like, now's a good time to pay attention. You don't want to be interacting with other people. And that's the look that you have. You don't want that, especially if you're going to shoot videos. And it's too easy now. That's like, this is being shot with Zoom. It's just being recorded. I created that Word document right there and just turned it into a PDF. You didn't even have to turn it into a PDF if you didn't want to. I just turned it into a PDF. I increased the size of the text because I found out when usually the text size when you read something is about 12 to 14 size font on regularly, typically on the internet, it's like 17 font. Things are a little bigger on the internet versus what you'd read in a book. But this I turned to 28 because when it was on 17 font, you could hardly even read what the words were. So I always make this 22 font. And it's like John screwing up with the screen right now, writing all over the screen. Okay. And that's why you always want to cut your audience so they can't do stuff like that. You want to lock your controls. So, they don't come on and their dog's barking in the background and, they can't write all over the screen like what just happened.
Paul, that was me, but I apologize. How do I delete it?
Well, let's leave it alone. But this is why you want to lock your screen when you do go on live, because all this stuff happens. Whatever you think is not going to happen is going to happen. So you just want to typically lock your screen. But anyway, getting back to the key things here. So positioning, what do you want to worry about? Don't be too close. What's the good parameter? Have the bottom at the belly button. Have the bottom at the belly button. That's pay attention to positioning. Standing or sitting, try to do standing. Try to find some place in your office where you can just put your little studio and you got your tripods, you got your Logitech, 1090 webcam, and you got a little, circle light. And even if you just need to plug in your stuff into a laptop, that you can move a laptop over for the source. Okay. And to where you can just leave it. Or it's very easy to move and move back, because you put marks on the floor. This is where the camera goes. This is where the light goes. This is where the people stand. And you should be doing that, because one of the things that you should be doing is we're going to go through all the marketing, but one of the best marketing things you can ever do is a patient testimonial. And we'll go into how to do that. Well, you got to know where to stand. You got to know the lighting. You got to know how far you can be from the sound, all that stuff. So I suggest strongly that you just get a studio. You just, make something work in your office, whether it's from your desk, whether it's next to your desk, something. Make something work where you have the studio, because you will not do it. If you actually have to put it up and take it down, you won't do it. We talked about the backgrounds, no distractions. You just look at my background, very generic stuff. You'll look at it, glance at it, and then it's over. No distractions, nothing personal. Never put anything personal behind you. Remember, there's differences in lighting. You want the 5,000 Kelvin bulb. You want white light. You don't want the 2 or 3 Kelvin, the yellow light. It's okay to use your fluorescence over your head. That's okay. But you always want a key light in front coming at your face to take out the shadows that the light over your head will cast. That'll make you look old in a bad video when your eyes are dark under your you got shadows under your eyes. Audio has to sound good. The way I would do it first is I would go with the direct connection. That's what I would do first before I went with Bluetooth. I'd get the lavalier, and you can get these again at Best Buy. You can go online and get these, and it's a direct connection. It's typically a 6-foot cable. If that cable is not long enough, then get an extension for it. That's just too easy just to plug that in, and you're not worrying about batteries or did it die or how much time do I have left. None of that. And you got good sound. It's right there. Because remember, you do not want that Logitech camera being more than two arms lengths, away from you. Do what you can not to use that Logitech, the Logitech microphone. It's got a built-in microphone. Okay. So, or you can do like what I did is I just have a boom mic right here. So I just keep it out of the picture, but it's right there. It's like 10 inches from my mouth. Okay, so my sound typically comes out good. Lighting comes out good. Positioning typically comes out good. Remember, the only thing you want, you're not looking for the spectacular. You just want to eliminate all these common problems that make it look like crap. That's all you want to do. I covered all the things that make videos look like crap. I covered them. And then we talked about the dress. Highly recommend you put a lab coat on if you're going to be saying something to attorneys or doctors. Get that white lab coat. If nobody ever sees it anywhere again. Same with your professional pictures. I went down and had my professional pictures taken, and it was in my white doctor's lab coat with a tie on. Now, you will never catch me in that again anywhere. But I'm going to get professional pictures taken. And there's a big difference if you've never had a professional picture. So it costs $200 or $300. You get 2 or 3 different angles, something like that. But go get a professional picture taken, not from your wife in your bathroom, in your kitchen. There's angles to it. There's lighting to it. There's dress. Get a professional picture taken. Don't get a glamour shot. Get a professional picture taken. And that's the picture you should be using in your website and your social media sites and everything. And hopefully it's, a white jacket on with your tie. Okay, so that's that about dress. We talked about video duration, and we talked about the simplicity of editing it. One last thing I'll just say, like Zoom makes it really easy. There's also a service called Camtasia. You can buy that, and that's a screen capture software program. I think Zoom's much easier than Camtasia. All you got to do is turn it on, and then if you want to leave it on you, or if you you can have it where it's not on you. If you're the kind of person that you're afraid to be on camera and all that, you could only capture what's on the screen. See, I could have done this with this screen capture and me not be in the video. I could have turned my video off. Now I leave it on purpose because that creates an emotional connection. It creates an identity. So if you are on the screen, make sure you dress like a doctor. Put that white lab coat on. But this makes it very easy to shoot videos. And then let me just sum up, like I'll stop the share now. And then that's a classic video right there. See, if I was going to do a clinical video, I'd put my clinical coat on and then I would just talk right into the camera right there. And it'd be a great little picture. Lighting's found, background's sound. I'll have my white jacket on. I'd put a pen in my hand, something like that. There you go. And even if you aren't sure your outline, you could have written your outline and put it on the screen and glanced at the outline and back and forth from the camera to the outline. Obviously, it's good not to read. Whatever you do, don't read when you're on camera. That looks bad. So there you have it. That's the basics. Well, I'd recommend getting your stuff together, get your Logitech high definition camera, get your tripods. All these things are relatively inexpensive. The Logitech webcam high definition is like $99 at Best Buy. These little tripods I use to put the camera on, and I put the lighting on there too, so I can control them more, move them in or move them out or whatever. Those are like $30, something like that. It's no big deal. And then if you wanted to do something like this microphone is a little more expensive. This is a Yeti. That could be like $250. So that is an expensive audio microphone. These are not. These blue, you can get these on Amazon. I think I bought these for $34. They're USB charged. So there you go. And then also if you buy the landline, I think it's like $25, $32. Buy an extension for another $10 or $15 if you need to. And then what you can do is use your computer. So you can set your laptop anywhere, plug in your microphone to the laptop, if you need to plug in your lighting for energy for lighting or whatever, and then move the camera where you want it. So the laptop might be over there somewhere. I'm just using the laptop as the energy source. That's all. Because it's mobile if I wanted to do this. So pick a place in your office that's not being used very much, whether it's actually in your office. And then pay attention to all these things. Don't have a window behind you. I've seen a lot of bad stuff. Matter of fact, I may just go on the internet and pull some videos up. The good news is more and more doctors are doing videos. The bad news is they look really bad. There's a lot of bad videos, on doctors on Facebook. They didn't pay attention to the basics: lighting, sound, positioning. This is like 101.